Hi, I'm Mike Hill with Trenton Consulting, and welcome back to part 2 of our two-part series on project management. Today's lesson, we're going to actually focus in on developing your project plan. There's lots of tools out there. We're going to use one of them to develop a project plan. Two of my favorite. One is Microsoft Project. It's widely popular out there, but it's more expensive and a little more complex. Today's lesson, we're going to use a tool I like that's inexpensive and very effective called Gantt. Now, there's several things that you'll want to look for in a software application. It needs to have a Gantt chart, has task dependencies, the ability to assign resources, phases and tasks, slack time, and resource management tools. Now, as we go through today's lessons, you'll see these illustrated and how important they are. So join me now as we develop a project plan in Gantt.
Well, as I mentioned, we're going to use Gantt for our project management illustration today. Now, just to be clear from the beginning, this is not intended to be a Gantt training class, but a demonstration of how you use a project management tool to create your project plan. So we're going to begin by opening up your favorite browser, and we're going to type Gantt.com. You'll see this screen pop up. You can start a free trial, and if you choose to use it as a tool, you can use the cloud version or the desktop version. The cloud version is easier for sharing with other teammates or clients. But just start that. Once you have started, it's going to bring you to a typical login screen. And when you begin with your Gantt, it'll bring you, first of all, to a screen like this. Now, if you're new to Gantt, this won't have any projects in it. These rows across the page are various projects that we have within Gantt for Trenton Consulting. So you can just click on any one of those projects that you've already created and open it up. But in this case, we're going to assume you don't have any projects open, and we're going to click the plus sign, the gold circle down at the bottom. And one of the things I like about Gantt is it gives you several ways to create a project. Up here in the blue row at the top, you can create a blank project plan. Now, typically, I'm lazy and I want a starter set and already have some of those tasks in place so I don't have to start from scratch. So I built a base project plan for our team at Trenton. And we share it with the Gantt community. You can use that plan. Now you'll notice other project plans here, favorites that we've identified. And then down here in the bottom, you'll see Browse Community Templates. One of the things I like about Gantt is the community shares project plans with one another. So you can scroll down and look in your industry and see if there's a base project plan that you want to use for your project. Now, once you open it up, this is our base project plan. This is what a project plan in a typical Gantt chart format looks like. This is not dissimilar to what you would see in Microsoft Project or other planning tools. Let me describe what you're looking at. Much like an Excel spreadsheet, you'll see rows and columns over here on the left, and to the right, this is actually a Gantt chart illustration. And let me explain a little bit about both. One of the reasons that I like base project plans is I find projects have some consistent things. There's phases and tasks. And so a typical project for us has an approval phase, a planning phase, preparations and developments phase, implementation phase, and then a go live. So the summary tasks are in black, and the physical work and the task itself is just below that. In the columns, you'll see across the top, the duration is the amount of time it's going to take to do the work. As you see a task here, the work for this approval meeting is 1 hour of work but that's going to be sometime during a business day. So it's going to take a duration of 1 day to complete that 1 hour of work. You'll see the start and finish dates for those tasks. And then out to the right, you'll see a Gantt chart illustrated. In the Gantt chart, the black bar is our summary task, our phase. Then the blue bars, illustrated here, are our actual work or task. And you'll notice that those tasks are connected by a line. That's called a dependency. And we create dependencies in our predecessors column. More about that in a few minutes. Let me continue to illustrate more about the Gantt tool. That's the basics of a project plan. You'll notice the dates with an end date. And then over in this column to the left, Gantt gives us various views of our project plan. This is the task view. We also have a resource view, all of the resources in our project, their email, company, whether it's a person resource or maybe it's a consumable resource like tools, how much they're going to cost and what calendar they use. Most of us use an 8 to 5 calendar, but you may be a hospital that works 24/7. You set up those calendars in the calendar view. I've got 3 set up, a standard, a 24-hour, and a night shift. You can add additional ones. And then Gantt has some reports based on your project plan once you've set it up. Well, I'm going to go back to our task view and illustrate some of the other specifics about Gantt, the menus. You'll see the typical menus up at the top, like you'll see in lots of software applications. Some of those items have icons down here for a quick entry of that item. We're going to begin by looking under the project menu and look at properties. And so this is where we initially set up our project description or project name. The start date, I've had the start date as April 1st. You can plan your project either from a start date. I would say 99 out of 100 projects we do is based on a start to finish. But you may have a project that has a finish date. Maybe you're planning a project that has to be complete by January the 1st. And so you might want to coordinate your project from the finish date all the way to the start date in reverse order. There are additional details here that I won't go over in our project properties. I've also indicated the standard calendar for this particular project. And I'm going to save this. Let me illustrate some other items. I'm going to go to the View menu item. And this is essentially where we select what columns we want to display on our Gantt chart. So you see the columns we have here. I'm going to add a cost column and go back and add a resource column. And now we've quickly added those 2 columns for our view. We have the control over the length of time we want to view in our Gantt chart. I'm going to shrink it so we can see it. Now it's month and weeks instead of weeks and days. And I use this quick access here. So now into the specifics of your project plan. Let's add a phase and a task so that you'll see the specifics of a task. I'm going to add a phase 6. I'm going to call it Post Go Live. Now you notice it immediately assumed I wanted it under this phase. Well, I don't. So I'm going to outdent that. These 2 arrows will allow me to outdent and indent task. So I've now indented that. This task or this phase doesn't have any task underneath it, so that's why it's not dark yet. So let's add a task. I'm going to add a survey after our project's complete. Now it's going to assume it should be out in it, and I'm going to do the opposite this time and end in it. You'll notice immediately I just created a phase. A phase does not have any resources or work hours associated with it. It reflects the summary of those below it. Now that we've added a task, let's look at the details associated with that task. And you'll notice that that task is unconnected to our Gantt chart. It's because we haven't added a predecessor task. Well, we want to make sure that the go live is complete, row 18, before we do the survey. And once we click on the task, you'll see the details related to that task. There's a lot of details related to any task in our project plan. The task name, our duration for this task. Well, as we're progressing through our project, we can put % complete. We can assign resources and predecessors. And then once we do those items, we're going to save it. In this case, I'm going to say the dependency is 18, and you'll notice that it immediately connected to the Gantt chart over here. We can add a resource. I clicked on that. The different resources available to our project pop up. I can add one or more resources to our project. Well, that's some of the details. Now, I think most of our tasks have details associated with it. Let's say that this approval meeting, I'm going to need to change to, it's going to take us a week to get that done. Notice over here that the task actually has what we call lag time. So even though normally a meeting would be done in an hour sometime during the day, what I've done in this task is I've gone and added 5 days of lag time. So it's to reflect the reality of life. Sometimes you order some equipment, and before you can do any more work on the project, you have to wait for that equipment to arrive. And so that's why we use lag time. One of the principles that I want to communicate to you from the very beginning is that although we entered a start date, we don't enter any other dates in our project plan, because we want that to be driven by the duration, the work, the dependencies, and any lag time we add. You notice every change that I make moves out the finish date on our project. The current finish date on our project is estimated to be May the 5th. And so one of the principles of using a project tool is to take advantage of the intelligence of that tool, move your dates around using these different components. That's essentially the overview of how you would go about creating a project plan. To learn more, you can contact us at Trenton Consulting if you need help with a project. If you want to learn more about Gantt, there is help on the product tool itself. There's YouTube videos available specifically on Gantt. If you want to learn more, you can always look at my book, The Extraordinary Business. Go to our website. We have downloads and videos there, TrentonConsulting.com. Email us at info@teamtrenton.com. Do us a favor and click like below, or subscribe if you would like to be considered for future videos. Thanks for watching today, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.